I'm Connie Lukes, and this is Coffee with Connie. And today I'm having coffee at Bagel Time at 194 Park Avenue. Bagel Time is always winning awards for having the best bagels in town. So be sure to stop by when you're in the neighborhood. And I'm right across the street with my law office, so you can come in and say hello to me too. Today I'm saying hello to Lew Evangelidis, who is a familiar face in not only Worcester County, but even Worcester. He was a state rep. What district did you represent?
Well, the first Worcester, the most important one, of course.
Oh, really? Okay. What was the geographical footprint of the first district?
It was a Holden, Rutland, Princeton, Sterling, Oakham, Hubbardston, and Westminster.
Okay, so it's towns surrounding Worcester, but you...
Yes.
You were born and you grew up in Worcester.
I was born in Hanneman Hospital and raised in a 3-decker right above Strand Ski Shop on Tower Street. So spent many years in Worcester.
And your grandparents came from the Albanian Greece area.
Absolutely.
So we have something in common there because that's where my lineage is. You are an unusual phenomenon in local politics because you're a Republican in a very visible position, and you've managed to win an election in Worcester County for what was traditionally, well, for a long time, a Democratic slot, the sheriff of Worcester County, I guess.
A couple generations, I think.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. How did you manage as a Republican to win that slot?
Well, Connie, one thing about sheriff is, it's not a partisan position, so I didn't run necessarily a partisan campaign. I ran a campaign based on the idea that I think people had the understanding that there was too much patronage, too much politics up there, too much a part of the old machine. Yeah. And there was one thing I tried to establish in my career. I never ran for office until I was 40. In my years as a rep, I was never part of the Old Boys Network. I tried to be an independent voice for my district, stand up for what was right, and I promised people...
What does Old Boys Network mean? Because I use that term. You've used the term.
Oh, yeah.
What do you mean when you say that?
Well, I think the sense that there was always an impression that the Sheriff's Department was based on everybody took care of everybody. People got jobs because who they knew. People got promoted by who they knew. There was a lot of raising of money through the campaigns and through the people at the jail. And
so there's a shadow of corruption that hovers over the whole place?
I would use it insider politics, if not corruption. But you know what? The reality was I had no interest in that. I did not go up there to hand out jobs to people. I went up there to run a professional organization. Worcester County Sheriff can be a really important player in making Worcester County a safer place. So my job and goal when I got in, and I was honored to be given that opportunity, has been to do nothing but that. So I've raised the hiring standards. I refuse to take any contribution from an employee or their spouse. I took the name off the vehicle, and don't say my name wouldn't fit. Evangelidis does fit on the side, but we wouldn't do that.
Oh, you measured it.
No, I was kidding.
Okay, yeah.
But the reality was I just wanted to make the position about a professionalism of the Worcester County Sheriff. And I think we've made great strides in doing that. We had 37 people I offered a spot to our new academy under our new hiring standards, the highest in the state. Not one of those people did I know. I did not owe anybody when I sat down in that chair as sheriff. I think that's the first time no promises were made.
How can you get elected without making promises?
I was told you couldn't do it, Konnie.
Yes. But I've done it myself, so I shouldn't be so surprised.
Well, you know what it was for me? It came down to this. I believed if you made the promises, you would be defeated before you even got in because you'd owe everybody. And I thought to myself, I can't do what I want to do with that office if I've made a lot of promises. So I refused to make promises, and that gave me an incredible opportunity when I got in there to do the job the right way. So I'm taking full advantage of that.
That job, being sheriff, needs and requires various skills in criminal justice, etc. You're an attorney. And I'm just wondering, should it not, because it's so specialized, should it not be an appointed slot rather than an elective slot?
Yeah, well, I thought a lot about that before I ran for sheriff, and part of me thinks that makes a lot of sense, but I'll only explain this to you since I've become sheriff. I've got a sense of the operation.
Yeah.
I know all the sheriffs across the state. There's an incredible array of innovative thoughts that they do. We work together. And what I like is each of us is responsive to our county. For example, number one, we're all accountable. If someone escapes from the DOC...
You're only accountable, though, on election, during an election season.
Well,
nobody's going to bother you between now and then.
Well, if an inmate was to escape, certainly I'm going to be the one who's on TV discussing that, in the newspapers discussing that, not some bureaucrat down in Boston who never answers to anybody, it seems. So that, for example, we've done inmate work crews. I know the needs of Worcester County. We've put inmates out there, 25 inmates every day, including right across the street at Elm Park, and we saved the taxpayers $1.4 million this year by bringing inmate crews into the community, helping meet the needs of the community, whether it was cleaning up ball fields, whether it was helping after storm damage, whether it was painting town halls. And I know as an elected official, I know the needs of our community, so I'm very tuned into that, where a bureaucrat, an appointed person would not be. So there's some advantages to having an elected official as sheriff. I do believe it makes you more responsive to the community.
Let's talk about your community service program, because that's probably the most visible aspect of the jail system. Do those inmates have to volunteer for that service?
Well, they have to earn their way into it as more than volunteer for it.
It's a benefit to them?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Why?
yes.
Why? They're out there cleaning up and doing all sorts of physical labor.
I take it you've never spent much time in an 8x10 cell for 20
you.
plus hours a day.
I haven't. No.
That's the point. It's like, incarceration in jail is not a pleasant place.
Yeah.
We're trying to give people an incentive to want to be well behaved, to earn their way into this program. It gets them out of the jail. And I'll tell you, Connie, not only does it save the taxpayers money and does incredible work for the community, which is a great benefit, what I found with the inmates is when I talk to the inmates, and I do, and I ask them how they feel about the community service project when they're out in the field. And not only does the ball field director or the town administrator come out and thank me, and Commissioner Boylan come out and thank me for doing the work, the inmates tell me they appreciate being in this program because they have a sense of dignity and self-respect and a day's work, and they believe, and I believe, that they're less likely to commit crimes when they get out, when they understand.
So they actually want to do this.
Absolutely, and we'll take them right out of it if they don't work hard, they're not well behaved. And you know what I find? These are our best inmates, by the way. They're nonviolent offenders. That's what I mean. You have to qualify for this program, and there's only a certain amount, not a lot, that will qualify. Nonviolent offenders, a good record in the jail, things like that. And then they earn their way in.
How many people do you house at the jail?
Well, we vary, but today, for example, we have about 1,150, and our...
You're way over your legal limit, aren't you?
No, our legal limit is 1,251.
Oh, I always remember the 800 number.
Well,
I guess it's
750 is what we were built for.
Okay,
but we are able to double bunk, and that's why it's a very difficult environment, because it's far overcrowded, and I would never use the term it was not overcrowded.
Yeah.
But we're not over our legal capacity, which is 1,251. That was done by federal consent decree with the prior administration and the federal government upon a lawsuit of civil rights. But we are very overcrowded, but we have to learn to deal with that.
How many of those inmates are eligible for the community service program, where we see them cleaning up the parks, etc.?
Well, I don't have an exact number, but I know we have about 25 inmates today working across Worcester County doing these great jobs.
So it's a very small percentage.
It is, but I think we might have about 40 or 50 that would be eligible for it. We don't have, it's not the majority of people by any means. You have to be very, very careful on who you let out of that jail. Now, these are supervised by an officer.
How many have decided to take a walk when they were doing it?
Well, none since I've been sheriff,
really?
and it's extremely rare. You got to remember, most of these people they're towards the end of their sentence.
Yeah.
It serves no purpose to try to escape, because you're just going to end up caught and going in and serving a much longer sentence. So we make sure that the people in this program have no incentive to do anything but be well behaved, and that's what we found to be the case. And frankly, these inmates have been very impressive for people in the community who work with them, because they tell me they're responsive, they're professional, they're polite, and you know what? They get a sense of dignity from this program. So I wish all government was a win-win like this. I'll tell you, it's not.
I was at a Democratic City Committee meeting many years ago where the issue, and the program was fairly new then, came up of union employees being shortchanged because these jobs were being done for free, because inmates aren't paid for this, are they?
No.
All right. So you had these volunteers performing work that normally would have been done by union members. Is that still a problem?
Well, it's not a problem for me, because all I do is let people know the inmate crews are available, and if you want to use them, you can use them. And if you don't wish to use them, that's your choice. But for me, as far as I'm concerned, I'm out there to help the communities, and I want to make them available. And I've had a very positive response. We've done probably, I think, 50 communities have utilized the inmate work crews. We saved over $1.4 million last year, and at the same time, the city of Worcester has used them. City Manager O'Brien is a regular caller to me, and we have snow removal crews that we use. We use crews for the post-October storm to clean up Elm Park and other parts of the city. So the city is utilizing us. There may be issues raised by other factions for this. It's none of my business, as far as I'm concerned. They're there, they're free, and they do good work. I don't know why you wouldn't want them.
You ain't gonna get
That's your problem. We got plenty of other people that want them.
How would you define or at least describe your typical inmate up there?
Typical inmate is a young person.
Really?
Usually,
How young is
yeah,
young?
I would say probably in their early 20s.
Oh.
Now, we have people there who are obviously in their 60s and 70s,
yeah.
and we have teenagers there.
Yeah.
But the typical inmate is probably in their early 20s. Surprisingly more educated than many areas. We have the majority of our inmates have high school diplomas.
Yeah.
So we don't, it's not like 90% or anything have dropped out of school. It's many have, but we have a fairly advanced group of people that are in our population. But the thing they have in common the most is that 85 to 90% are there directly because of drug or alcohol addictions. That's the one story you hear every single day. That's a lot of the reason why I'm bringing that face-to-face drug program into the schools of Worcester County, because I'm trying to share the message inmates tell me.
All right, tell me what face-to-face means.
Well, face-to-face is I really developed this program myself in conjunction with some professors and through YouTube videos and things to bring basically the story to young people that what the inmates tell me was, if I could roll back the clock and I could sit back in middle school or high school again and not made the choices I made, and almost all of them involved drugs and alcohol, I would do that in a heartbeat, because that's where my life went off track. So I try to bring that message to young people, that there are choices they're going to make and there are real consequences. And I try to do it in an entertaining way by showing stories about Lindsay Lohan and Charlie Sheen, and the Len Bias story, the myth that you could take drugs once and nothing would happen to you, and he died by trying drugs one time, would have been the most famous probably basketball player of all time. And we try to bring it, and then at the end I try to show not only the impact these drugs have on your life, they have on your internal, your teeth, your organs, then we show their appearance and how it changes, and dramatic changes in people, especially with drugs like methamphetamine.
I was gonna say,
it's unbelievable.
Meth has always been that hardcore drug that is most visible on your face and body.
Connie,
makes you look like a monster.
It does. It changes young, beautiful people into like aged, just horrible looking people in a matter of months, if not a year or two. So we try to bring that message, and we actually have the technology to take photographs of teachers or kids in the school, and then we can project how they would look if they abused these drugs, just to get the message across. And what I'm hearing, and I mean this, I'm very proud of this program, because universally, yesterday we were in Charlton Middle School. Tomorrow I'm in Millbury High School.
So
We've already been to South High.
Tell me what a typical presentation is, how long it takes.
It takes about,
Who's your audience?
Well, our preferable audience is 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10th grade.
Middle school?
Middle school or high school.
Okay.
We've been to South High. We've done South High. And we did the 9th and 10th grades there. And
how many kids were in the audience?
We had almost the entire classes. So the average probably group we could do it before is between 100 and 150.
You think when you have that large an audience, you sort of lose the personal contact with the kids?
No, as a matter of fact, I find that the auditorium setting with 100 or 200 kids is better than a classroom setting, because the kids sit in a flat room with maybe 50 or 60, and the kids in the back are far away and they get a little bit less engaged. If you're in an auditorium setting, and all I can tell you, Konnie, is what I'm getting from feedback from the administrators, from the teachers, from the parents, from the students is, the program is incredible. It hits every button. The kids are engaged. You can hear a pin drop. I mean,
how long is it? An hour?
It lasts about between 42 and 45 minutes.
And you think with 45 minutes it's going to make an impact on teenagers who are usually preoccupied with their cell phones?
Well, Konnie, I can only tell you.
You make them turn off their cell phones and all that equipment off when they come in?
I've never heard a cell phone go off in a presentation.
Okay, all right.
Well, all I can tell you is I got a stack of about 50 letters from students in my car right now, and every one of them tells me how much they appreciated the program, because it showed them things they'd never thought of, and going to make them think twice about making those choices that they make with drugs and alcohol.
You think you need to go back to the same audience like a year or two later just to see if they got the message?
Well, we will. But you know what's interesting? Yesterday, for example, Charlton Middle School, the health education director came up to me after the presentation and said, it was so wonderful because we hit many of the same buttons they hit. So we're just reaffirming a lot of the lessons they're teaching. So it's not like I go in there and teach a course on drug and alcohol, which I think, frankly, the sheriff is the perfect person to bring the message, because drugs and alcohol lead you to prison. So there's a very real reason. I'm trying to put myself out of business here. The young people of Worcester County think twice about drugs and alcohol. There's going to be a lot fewer crimes committed. That's a fact.
Are you not changing the role, at least the traditional role of a sheriff who's there as a custodian of people, to warehouse those people for a period of time and then move them on and warehouse another group of people? You're sort of changing the definition of what a sheriff does?
Well, a couple things on that.
Yeah.
Number one is there's been a lot of evidence to show that throwing the key away, warehousing people doesn't work. That we all know. I'm never afraid to be tough on crime. I'm a former prosecutor, and I have no love lost for criminals or inmates.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I have a responsibility to make people in Worcester County safer, and there's smart ways to approach that, and that means identify those inmates that we can reach, try to give them some basic skills so when they get out of that place, get them off of drugs and alcohol, get them some basic skills, make sure that they, in the transition out, that we have reentry, that we set them up with a place, a supportive network to go to, because if that happens, Connie, they're going to be less likely to commit crimes on you and me and the communities.
Okay, you're doing the preventative thing, going into high schools and reaching the kids before they do crazy things and break the law. And then you're dealing with your inmates who are already committed the crimes, who are already addicted, to try to sober them up after they leave so they don't come back again.
That's right.
By the way, what's your recidivism rate? How often do your inmates come back?
Well, that's a tough question, and the reason I can't answer it, I'll answer it to you, probably 50+%.
Really?
But it's hard to define because, for example, is someone a recidivist if they stay out of prison 5 years, or is it 1 year, or is it 6 months? Is someone a recidivist if they leave here but commit a crime in New Hampshire, or if someone had a crime in California, moved here and committed a crime? These are tough definitions, but I can tell you this. People that are in we only have limited funding to do this, so I have a STOP program that deals with drug and alcoholism. I can only fit about 40 people in that program.
Out of 1,100?
That's it. I don't have, my budget's kind of tight.
Wow,
but those people are less likely to commit crimes. Those inmates who are out in the community doing this community service are less likely to come back. We know certain programs work. They give people a better sense of self-worth, and it makes them less likely to commit crimes. We're not talking about murderers and rapists and sex offenders here. Those people are in our jail, and I hope they get their day in court and get sent to state prison. But we're talking about our sentenced inmates, averaging 9-month sentences, many for lesser offenses. I think we have to try, and usually involved with drugs and alcohol, we got to do our best to make our community safer. So I'm trying to redefine the role of sheriff for one reason. That is, look, my main job is to run that facility, and I get that. And that's why I limit myself to 2 mornings a week going out to public schools or any schools to do this program. And I'm already booked through the end of April, months down the road. But I'm trying to redefine the role of sheriff because, frankly, when I looked at the other sheriffs across the country and across the Commonwealth, they do a whole lot more than sit in their desk, put their feet up, give their friends jobs, and call it a day. And I didn't run to do that. I didn't run to do it. So
a lot of people think that's what the sheriff's job is, you know.
And that's the perception that I'm fighting every day. But I'm trying to let people know that this is an honor and a privilege to be sheriff. I didn't promise anybody anything to get the job, so I can go in there and run it the right way. And that's holding people accountable and being a professional.
Okay, half of your inmates have drug and alcohol problems in addition.
More, 90%.
90%, all right. What percentage do your guards have as drug and alcohol problems?
My guards?
Yeah, your guards.
Oh, I couldn't answer that question. I mean, we do drug testing, and that's part of the process, absolutely. And I'd like to think it's extremely low amount. I mean, I'm very attuned into that. We're very careful about people always, any penal institution, people try to bring drugs into the institution. We've worked very hard to limit and minimize that, if not completely eliminate it, which is difficult. But no, I take those issues very seriously. And if we have any idea that someone has a drug or alcohol problem, we deal with it and try to get them help. So I'd like to think but I will tell you, corrections is a difficult business, and there's a high stress level to it. And we know that corrections officers across this country have higher rates of alcoholism, higher rates of divorce. We know that. So we try to identify that. And as much as I'm holding people accountable, I can also say there's a lot of good, hardworking people at that jail who want to be part of the system, and we're trying to help them. But I also know that there's a small percentage, as there is almost everywhere in this world, who just don't have the work ethic, feel like they are entitled to this job, they feel like they don't have to be held accountable, and they can do what they want. And those days are over.
The days are over when you could bring a letter from your favorite politician and say, I've got their blessing, I want a job right now. Or you get the call saying, my brother-in-law needs a job, you know?
Well, Konnie, the easiest thing I could do to prevent that was raise the hiring standards. If you don't have a college degree and or military service and pass a written test and a physical exam and a drug test and then a psychological profile, I can't hire you anyway. And you know what? That just eliminated a lot of people that you just referred to. And I did that myself, so that doesn't even enter the realm of possibility.
You said that some of your population is older, like in their 60s, etc. There's been some publicity lately about attempting to move older, and I don't know to what percentage you deal with this. You know what I'm going to ask.
Sure.
Older inmates into a non-correctional setting, into something more like a rest home because it's too expensive to give them the kind of treatment they need. I mean, jail cells were not made for wheelchairs, etc. How much does it cost yearly to house somebody at your institution?
Yeah, we probably average about $40,000 an inmate per year, and that's why reducing recidivism has a major impact, because that costs everybody an enormous amount of money. And I always mention this, you don't get a free pass to jail. You earn your way in. Drugs, violence, break-ins, you know what I mean? There's a community impact. So every time we can stop someone from coming back, never mind the money we save the trauma in the community. And as I know as a prosecutor, I remember so many victims coming to me and their whole family was traumatized by it. The whole community was traumatized. When a neighbor's house gets broken into, you feel less secure in your life. These are things I feel responsibility as sheriff to help make better.
So if you had your druthers, how would you treat your older population? Should they be in your facility, or should they be in a different facility that caters to elders?
Well, that's a complicated question because, if someone's committed a serious crime and they're older, they deserve to be treated with the harshness of the law as anybody else. So,
are your facilities able to deal with their physical needs, to deal with wheelchairs going in and out of cells?
Very difficult.
The diet, the medical attention.
Well, I'll tell you what, Connie, the population I would identify the most problematic that you're kind of in that area of is the mental health issue.
I was going to say, what happens if your inmate has Alzheimer's? Is that a reason to get them out?
Well, the question is, where would they go?
Release?
But I'll tell you, this is the population which people are not aware of. I know a lot of people feel like the state hospitals have closed down. Rutland Heights Hospital, Northampton, all the state hospitals have closed, the mental hospitals. People feel like the issue went away. The issue did not go away.
Our population is getting older.
If you look at the population we have in our facility, we believe 30% of our people are on psychotropic medication. 30% or 40% of our people have psychological issues. We have an area of the jail that's specific to people in acute mental illness. It's very tragic. It's very sad. They don't belong in an incarcerated environment of prison because they're mentally unable to even comprehend where they are.
So you're a rest home. You're a mental treatment institution. What else are you?
Hospital.
Hospital.
We have hospitalization. We have, medical services at our facility. We do transportation.
Must be an educational institution.
We have. I just hired a new director of education that I hired from a very experienced person from Arizona. We run a city.
Yeah.
And we run every aspect of a city. But some of it is, like I said, I just want you, when you raise the issue of who maybe shouldn't be there, there are people that really, but the state hospital is closed down. Bridgewater State Hospital is the place we can petition the court to send these people. Mm-hmm. And you know what they tell us? It's hard on the staff. Imagine you work in that area. You have to be a certain type of employee and a certain length of time there to even work in that area of the jail. And sometimes these people are so difficult, we just try to move them out to give the staff a break for a week. It's very stressful.
Where do you move them out to?
Well, that's the thing. Bridgewater State Hospital is the last one left to take these people. The courts will order people to go there because they're violent, because they're dangerous, for evaluation. They used to go there for months or to the end of their sentence. It's so crowded at Bridgewater, we're able to send people sometimes for 2 weeks, and then they ship them back. And the only thing we get out of that is a little relief. They don't belong in our prison. They should be in a state hospital. There is no facility for them.
What percentage of your population do you think does not belong there? Because you don't have the ability, the facilities, the expertise to treat them.
Well, I would say zero, only because we have that responsibility. No, we have that responsibility and we will do it. But if it was by observation, I think there are a significant population, 10, 20%, that really are not appropriately handled in an incarcerated environment. Absolutely. Whether because of the mental, psychological issues, which is a major one, or certain age or certain physical limitations they have, it puts a tremendous stress. For example, do
they present a danger to other inmates and to the staff, the guards?
Absolutely. There's no question. I mean, my medicals alone last year, many people don't realize this, when you enter a correctional facility, the county sheriff, in this position myself as Worcester County Sheriff, we own those people and all their medical needs. We've had people spend even a weekend with us or 2 or 3 days with us who end up having a heart attack or a medical issue that can cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars. And my medical expenses alone last year were over $4 million. Many of them are acute situations on short-term people. we are responsible for that, and it's a huge expense. And we've talked to the legislature about trying to get people.
I was going to say, is the legislature getting that message that you just don't warehouse people? You are a small city with the educational and medical services that are required normally in a large community.
Yeah.
I mean, 1,100 people. Maybe when you compare it to a town, it's small, but you're providing the same services a town would provide.
Well, the thing about it is the legislature, and I was one, so I know, they have many, many competing interests that need a limited amount of resources. I get that. The only thing I try to bring the message to, because a lot of people have about the Worcester County Jail, about the incarceration system, being through an attorney, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
We are not at the top of anyone's list of needs. I get that. But the reality is, what I think we have to do is try to invest our resources as a government in places that in the long run save us money. And I think if you make an incarcerated environment the best environment possible for reducing recidivism, in the long run, it makes our community safer and it saves us money. Absolutely. That's what I'm trying to accomplish, Sheriff. Use the resources we have, and I assure you, I'm looking in the eye and telling you, this ain't about patronage and taking care of people. This is about bringing in the best professional people I can find to do the job they're paid to do, to make our inmates who get out, and they're getting out. The people in my house correction are getting out, and they're going back to your street and my street and every other street in Worcester County.
They're going to walk into this coffee shop, and they will be a product of your services.
That's right. And you know what?
Whenever the public sees people clean up the parks, they're a product of your institution. When they see you in the high schools telling kids and warning them about drugs, that's your institution. And I guess we could spend another half hour here talking about what the sheriff does and how important those services are, because it's coming back to haunt us one way or another, that you really need much more support than probably you're getting. I'm going to thank you for spending a half hour
Konnie.
with me.
It was great, yeah.
And I cut you short, and I know it.
That's all
because
right.
Bill Hamilton over there was telling me
that
my time is up. So thank you for joining us. We're at Bagel Time today on Park Avenue. It's 194B Park Avenue. They've won lots of awards for having great bagels. And maybe next week I'll be in your neighborhood talking to your friends, family, and neighbors, and to the people that are making a difference in Worcester.